Hello there, welcome to this second video, which is going to cover the second half of paper 1. So that's the medicine through time 1250 to present section of the paper. If you haven't already looked at the historic environment part, that's in an earlier video, which is linked via my profile. So check that out now if you haven't already. Let's get into it. In the second half of the paper, then, you have to answer 3 questions. The very first of these looks like this. It's going to ask you to explain one way in which one thing in a certain era is similar or different from another aspect in a secondary era. So in the images now, I'm just showing you how lots of people choose to answer this. Lots of people say in one era this, in the second era this, but that's wrong. If you do that, the maximum you get is 2, and the reason is because to get all 4 marks, you need to explain the differences. I'm showing you how to do this in the example now then. So in the example I've got, I'm saying the physician's role in the first era, the doctor's role in the second, so in the modern, is similar because, and this is the crucial part, this is how you get those extra 2 marks, you need to set out why it's similar. So here I'm saying both are expected to diagnose, but if you're being asked about difference, you might need to talk about technology or attitudes in society, a factor as to why things are similar or different. Having done this, you can go on to talk about one era and then the next, but ensure that you use factual information for both. Moving on then, the second question that you're going to come across in the medicine through time part asks you to explain something. So this is a 12 marker, and the example I've got here says explain why developments in science and technology led to rapid progress in the years 1900 to present. With any question like this, always start by writing out the era, focus, and concept. This makes sure that you're directly focused on the topic in the question. You don't go off on a tangent, which you can't be rewarded for. So in this question, my era is 1900 to present, my focus is science technology, and the concept I've been given is change. This will vary from question to question. Always write out your plan underneath. Having done this, then I'm going to jump straight in. I'm going to create a quick mind map to plan out my answers. So I'm thinking through what I could talk about. So I'm thinking about science technology, how it's led to progress. Well, treatments is one thing, penicillin being one of those. Breakthroughs via DNA, so that's understanding and beliefs about causes, and the electron microscope is a good example of that. And finally, diagnosis could be another example. So I've just written down x-rays, maybe scans. These are examples of the kinds of things I could choose to write about. When it gets into the writing, the biggest thing that you need to be aware of is your explanation. You'll have revised a lot of content, but when it comes to each paragraph, you should finish by explaining how that answers the question. 3 sentence starters I use are this means, as a result, and therefore. I can shorten this to TAT. You make your point, you give your evidence, and then explain using this, TAT. Moving to the final question then, what we're going to see is we're going to see a similar question, but this time you're expected to give a judgment. I'll read this one out, and it says there was little improvement in dealing with infectious diseases in the years 1500 to 1900. Again then, we're going to start off by identifying the era, the focus, and the concept, or the EFC. So I'm looking at this question, I'm reading through it again. The era is listed at the end, 1500 to 1900. So I know that 1500 to 1900 covers the Renaissance and the Enlightenment parts of the course that I've studied. So that gives me a range of things I can talk about, going all the way through these years 1500 to 1900. Now, the focus is a little trickier with this question. It says dealing with infectious diseases, dealing with infectious diseases. So different focuses could include beliefs about causes, it could include treatments, it could include prevention, it could include the types of people who are treating as well. In this case, dealing with infectious diseases definitely means prevention. How they try to prevent and stop infectious diseases from spreading. Now, the concept again is a bit trickier. It asks me about little improvement. Little improvement. I need to think about whether this is causation, whether it's consequence, whether it's significance, change, or continuity. Now, in this instance, it's asking me about continuity. Things staying the same, but as it's a judgment question, does it stay the same? Does it change? I'm going to need to work out my for and against based on this. Having broken down my era, focus, and concept then, just like before, I need to start off with a plan. So I'm putting in the middle of my mind map, and there are lines underneath the question where you can write all of this out. You can put a line through it after you're done, but it's a good idea to plan it somewhere the examiner can see it so they can reward it if they need to. And I'm going to plan out what I could say. So for there being little improvement, I might talk about miasma. That's a good example. I can link that to the Great Plague of 1665. I can link it to cholera outbreaks and the Great Stink during the Enlightenment era. I can also think about some of the other reasons for. So one of the arguments I could bring up for this might be around how widespread vaccination doesn't really occur for anything other than smallpox until the latter half of the 19th century, after people like Pasteur and Koch in the 1880s or so. So that would be an additional point which would argue for the statement, saying that there are little improvements with regards to how disease is prevented. Now, what could I talk about against? For this kind of question, I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to get down some factual information. So I might talk about John Snow. Obviously, he found out that cholera was being spread via water after his experiments with the Broad Street pump. And I might also choose to talk about the Public Health Act. This planning out takes about 2-3 minutes. And seeing as you give yourself 30 minutes to this question, it's time really, really well spent. It can be rewarded by the examiner if you don't quite get around to writing something, but also make sure you know what you're going to answer before you actually do it. When it gets to answering each paragraph, then I'm going to do a classic structure of point, evidence, explanation. So I might start off by saying one reason there was little improvement. And then I'm going to start with my first point. One reason little improvement occurred is because of miasma, an ongoing belief in miasma, which occurred throughout the Renaissance and the Enlightenment period. I then back this up with evidence. My screen's going to jump for a second because my recording stopped, but stay with me. So when I come to my evidence, again, I need to back this up with specific factual information. Names, dates, events, and examples are what you need for this in order to demonstrate that learning and understanding that you have. Having given my factual information, again, I'm going to use that TAT structure. This means, as a result, therefore. The crucial thing with TAT is that you're linking back to your question and that you are justifying the argument that you're making. If you look to the right, you'll see I've also added in an additional box here. I've written down conclusion. Now, for this style of question, because it's a judgment, what you need to make sure of is you need to make sure that you say how far you agree with it and why. This is about criteria, and this is how you get into the top marks and ensure that you're moving yourself towards 16 out of 16. But justifying how far you agree is absolutely crucial in terms of picking up all of the marks available for this question. Fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. I'll do a couple more videos, one for each additional exam paper on Elizabethan, early Elizabethan England, and I'll do one as well for Nazi and Weimar Germany. Keep your eye out for those, and thank you so much for watching. Best of luck in the exams.